What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and of course, we typically feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. With me, as always, is Lauren. And this week, we are going to kind of break down for you the timeline of all of the movies that you have seen Hugh Jackman in as Wolverine and the X-Men films, and none of them actually make sense in the whole grand scheme of things, but you know what, we're going to go ahead and do it anyways, as we are still on our vacation. We pre-recorded this, so no news, no notes, no what we're reading. If you want to find out what we're reading, listen to our previous episodes or check out our latest Cantina Hour that we did. And yeah, man, come hang out with us. Follow us on socials, Hops Geek News, anywhere that you find podcast and social media. Like, subscribe, share, interact with us. That's how the podcast grows. And my beer of the week is a fitting one. It's a wild berry sour, and it's from Lost Barrel Brewing from Middleburg, Virginia. I actually chose Lost Barrel because this timeline has me so lost. So I figured really fitting name for what the theme of this is. It's actually a tart and fruity malt beverage, kettle soured for 3 days and then fermented with cherries, blackberries, and strawberries, and lightly hopped with U.S. golden hops. Like I said, Lost Barrel, 6% ABV. Lauren, what are you going to drink to get us through this mess?
So I actually have a very on-point beer, thanks to Micah from Tavern Geek. I have the Gambler. It is a Gambit-themed beer. It goes along with we did the
Where did you find that? What the hell, Micah?
I don't know. It's part of the Immortal series, Mason Aleworks. They're doing some amazing copyright stuff. I got a mercy
getting sued.
Too. I haven't taken a sip yet, but I'm sure it's fantastic because all of theirs have been. Oh, it smells very good. It smells
their Wolverine one that we've had was pretty good. Yeah.
Ooh, this is smooth. It's a hazy double, which are my favorites. Yeah, I still have I have all of the cans. I have the Murky Mouse one, I have the Thor one, I have the Hulk one, and the Thing one. I've saved all of them so far. And I will be rinsing this one out and saving this one as well. So thank you, Micah.
Yeah.
I have a couple of home brews.
Oh.
Maybe I'll drink one of those tonight.
Wow, Micah, I see where our friendship is, I guess. I was just going to spend your 40th birthday with you in August, but that's how you're going to do me? Fine. Well, anyways, I'm over my sentimentality. Let's dive in to whatever the hell is going on. So these are actually in order as they're supposed to be?
These are in chronological order, but keep in mind there is a time shift. So I will let you know when we get there, and we will then come back, and then we will discuss, because I believe some things are still canon to the OG. Because remember, there's 2 timelines in this. So
I don't remember. No.
Okay. You want me to just talk the whole time? You can just listen. So remember, though, everything from the beginning of X-Men Apocalypse to 1973 is still the original timeline. That's the OG. Maybe this is why Kaylee thought OG meant original. My precious daughter thought OG meant original, not original gangster. So that's the OG timeline. And then it changes after Days of Future Past.
All right.
Remember?
Oh, yeah, vaguely.
So we don't really know if Deadpool needed to kill Deadpool. Okay, so we're jumping ahead. So let's start
with 2016. Yes, the 2016
so we
film,
have the years of the movies and then the years that they take place.
Okay. All right. Well, yes, X-Men Apocalypse, starring Oscar Isaac, before he transitioned to another Egyptian god-like figure.
This one Moon
starts in 3600 BC, and Saba-Nur rules ancient Egypt, following a ceremony in which his consciousness is being transferred into another body so he can use his healing factor. He and his 4 followers, the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, are betrayed by conspirators, and in the process, his followers are killed, and he is entombed alive. And then, fast forward to all the awfulness. This is the one where they killed Jean Grey, Sansa Stark, isn't it?
No.
Oh.
She kills Apocalypse, but again, you're jumping ahead. We're going in chronological order.
These movies. You're right. My bad.
Again, I just rewatched all of these movies. Wait.
Hold on. But
she dies in
takes place present day, I thought. Then no, it takes place in the past. This movie takes place in the past.
X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Oh. It starts in 3600 BC, and when it gets to the 80s, I'll let you know. It's in 83. That's why Storm's younger.
Oh. So I'm confusing myself. So we start here and then, okay, why don't you take over next?
We're going in chronological order. So X-Men. So this opening even is relevant to the OG timeline and the new timeline. So everything until I tell you it's not should be canon in the X-Men timeline, no matter what timeline it is for this Fox universe. So now we're going
Ah,
came out in 2009, and it is 1845. James Howlett is a very young, sick kid with a friend named Victor after James kills his biological father, who he had thought had just killed his father. Then him and Victor flee, now knowing that they are half brothers, and we see them in many different wars, showing time moving forward.
okay. Well, then that takes us to X-Men First Class and X-Men. So X-Men First Class came out in 2011. X-Men was 2000. So in 1944, Magneto's powers are unleashed when his mom is taken from him at a concentration camp and subsequently killed in front of him by Sebastian Shaw in First Class. Very similar scenes at the beginning of both movies.
They really are very similar. They both say
They
Poland,
are.
1944. I honestly had to do a double take. I'm like, is this the same kid? I'm like, because obviously he has more scenes as younger Magneto in First Class because they're developing, the origin of that character more. But I thought that that was really interesting and kind of cool that they really held on to that. I thought that was fun. All right, so then in The Wolverine, which came out in 2013, we're at 1945. So this is just after 1944, and it's so interesting to think.
Oh, is that what comes after
Wolverine
1944? 45?
It is. Look
Ah,
at us learning math and timelines all in one episode.
we're catching on.
But it's funny to think like the Wolverine is a grown man. He's been around for a while now,
Forever.
and 100 years now. And Magneto is a young child, and how they're both in World War II. And throw in the MCU and it'll get even crazier. So Wolverine at some point was separated from Victor, apparently because he was captured in Japan, and he ends up saving Yoshida from the bomb that hit Nagasaki. Now we
Oh,
go back, or now we go to First Class.
we are in First Class now. Again, this is now 1962. A young Professor Xavier and a young Magneto tried to recruit Logan, to which we get the first F-bomb where he tells him to fuck off. Now, in 1973, Wolverine is in X-Men Days of Future Past, which came out in 2014. He goes back in time. We're going to put a pin right here and finish the original timeline first. But everything before this moment is canon to both the original X-Men timeline and the new one that becomes created.
I feel like I'm in that episode of Friends where Phoebe can't get her fire alarm to stop beeping. I
That's
changed the
tough.
battery, it kept beeping. I took the
Just
battery
rip it
out,
out of
it's
the
still
wall. I don't
beeping.
know. It still beeps. Wow. Okay.
You didn't I thought that's why you laughed, because I just made a face because it
Well, I
beeped.
knew I heard it beeps. I just didn't realize if you even
Yeah,
take the
there's no
batteries out.
battery in that.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
This is the real villain. This is my villain origin story right here.
Let's go
Okay,
back in the past.
back to Wolverine Origins, which is 1979. Which, funny enough, in X2, they say, what has it been, Wolverine? 15 years? No, it's been over 20. But Logan is shacked up with Silver Fox in Canada, and he is a lumberjack. This is the first time we actually see Deadpool. While it seems that Victor and Logan defeat Deadpool, there is the cheesiest end credit scene ever where Deadpool is putting his head back on, and he looks to the camera, and he goes, shh.
I
I for
honestly never knew that. How did I never know this?
Oh my god, go put it on Disney Plus tonight. It is the cheesiest scene. So I
With
don't think
you're
it was
talking with the we're talking stitched up mouth Deadpool?
Yes. Yes, it's on the Disney Plus one. So I don't remember seeing that particular end credit scene in theaters, but I remember watching like a very grainy YouTube version. I don't know if it was just in some theaters and not others. And then when I was rewatching it the last couple months, that scene is on the Disney Plus version. And I will say kudos to Disney Plus. They have a button where you can skip credits. So you
All
can go
right.
to the end
I
credit
guess I'm
scene.
gonna be looking that up, and I'll probably still, for social medias, I'm probably gonna input that clip into this conversation. But all right.
Ooh, that's fun. So Wolverine Origins ends with an adamantium bullet to Logan's head, leaving him with memory loss, which is a common issue for Wolverine all the time in the comics, both naturally and
Bro
not so
can never
naturally.
remember anything, just like I can never remember this timeline.
Well, his healing factor sometimes makes him forget things, and then obviously all these things happen to him. And I was actually reading this Patch comic today, and at the very end, he's getting healed, and it makes him completely forget everything that happened
Oh
in the
my god.
entire
Hey,
comic
we
book.
need to do something with Wolverine. All right, fine. What are we gonna
Maybe it's
do?
like
Old reliable. He forgets it.
no one will ever see it coming.
Nobody.
Maybe it's like butterfly effect. He'll get like a bloody nose if
You
he has
fell
too many
for the
memories.
oldest trick in the book.
So this makes it so he does not remember consenting to becoming Weapon X, and he forgets about William Stryker completely.
All right.
Okay, a couple random notes. So the title was actually called like X-Men Origins Wolverine. I always call it Wolverine Origins. That's not correct. So it really makes me think that they were trying to set something up, that they were going to do other origin stories because they called it X-Men Origins, and
Ah.
then it didn't do as well as they thought. I don't know. But one of my favorite parts when rewatching this movie is how Victor saves Logan from Deadpool, and he says to him, "Only I get to kill you," because they're brothers, and like that's such like a sibling thing to say. Like if anybody fucks with you, like I will kill them,
Yeah,
but
right.
I will kill you first.
Okay, not for nothing. I actually really like this version of Sabretooth, though, to be
Me
honest with
too.
you. Like I was really endeared to Leave Schreiber. So
I agree. And going back and watching X-Men 2000, it's a little like, yeah, it doesn't fit as right, especially because Sabretooth is such a main character in Wolverine's life in the comics.
yeah,
Like,
he
he never
was like
lets
a
a Logan
footnote
birthday go
in
by.
that first X-Men movie, and he's back though in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes, and I'm sure Deadpool, I hope he makes a movie, a comment like, "I thought he'd look more like Liv Schreiber," or something like that.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Yeah.
Did you
All
ever
right.
see the
Well,
clip during COVID where they were, doing an X-Men reunion, and
no,
then Ryan Reynolds showed up or something, and then at the end, Liev Schreiber shows up?
I did
And one
not.
by one, they leave. They're like, "Oh, I thought this was a Game of Thrones reunion. Oh, I thought this was a Star Trek or a James Bond You haven't seen that clip?"
No, had no idea it was a thing. Well,
And then it's just Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. He's like, "I guess it's just me and you, Wolvie."
I have to look that one up. Damn,
Oh,
so many good
okay.
things out there. Which reminds me, I am alone, just like Wolverine is alone in X-Men 2000. While still not knowing his past, he comes across Rogue and they end up at the X Mansion. Sabretooth is a minion of Magneto's and shows no familiarity with Wolverine whatsoever. And Magneto
He's
and the
grouchy.
Brotherhood plan to, yeah, he does, plan to place their machine on Liberty Island and use it to mutate the world leaders meeting at a summit on nearby Ellis Island. However, when they did this to the president, he dies. Maybe, Compound V maybe works better from birth because he turns into a giant puddle at one point and just dies. I don't know.
That was weird. He just went splash.
It was creepy. Very good CGI effects for 2000.
Mm,
But the X-Men scale the Statue of Liberty. They stop him. They save the day. Now, some fun facts. X-Men 2000 is believed to be a turning point for San Diego Comic-Con, becoming the huge event that it is today.
which makes sense. That was
It
like the
does.
turning point for, I feel like, geekdom merging into pop
It
culture.
started. Absolutely agree with that.
So X2, which is personally my favorite of the trilogy, came out in 2003, which is so crazy. That's the year my daughter was born. We get the William Stryker backstory for Wolverine, but it seems like he was forced into the Weapon X program. That seems how Wolverine is remembering it. Obviously, we later learn that it's not the case. He was doing it to get revenge on Sabretooth after he thought Sabretooth had killed Silver Fox. Lady Deathstrike is in this, but her character, I feel like, is completely wasted. Because
Absolutely.
remember, Stryker is mind controlling everybody, including Magneto. So Mystique busts Magneto out of jail and they reach out to the X-Men because Stryker is controlling mutants. Here's your supernatural fun fact. The person who Mystique seduces and pumps full of metal is Benny from Supernatural.
Oh, had no idea. That's
I know,
cool.
because he plays kind of a jerk, whereas Benny in Supernatural is like the sweetest, lovable, amazing vampire that he is. So in the end, the X-Men win. The dam collapses. Stryker dies, and Jean appears to sacrifice herself to
She
save everyone
did.
else. One
Also,
of the
another
things
wasted character was James Marsden Cyclops. Just throwing that out there.
I agree, and you know what I realized when I was rewatching this? Both Hugh Jackman and James Marsden are Easter bunnies.
They are.
I never realized that until I was rewatching these, and I
One
was like,
brings you eggs on Easter, the other just fertilizes them.
"What?"
I was talking about Hugh Jackman's a beautiful man. I don't know.
Well, no, Hugh Jackman's the Easter bunny in Rise of the Guardians.
I know. I was just
Okay, and
being
James Marsden
stupid.
is the Easter bunny in Hoth.
Yes, he is.
They're
Yes.
both pretty hot. I will give that to them.
Yes. Anyways,
All right. So take us to
yeah,
the
X3, The Last Stand, X-Men 2006.
I had to beg my boyfriend at the time to go see this movie
Oh
with me in
god, this movie
theaters.
is rough.
And
We
then there was a scene, I think when Beast went whatever, he just looked at me and I'm like, "I'm sorry." But I'm rewatching this. I think all these movies are good. I don't know. I like them more now.
All right.
Even Phoenix. We'll get there when we get there.
We're going to rewatch them with Patreon movie nights, I think was our original idea. So we're going to stick to that. Now we start with a flashback of a bald walking Professor Xavier and Magneto who go talk to Jean Grey's parents. She's a bit older than her origin in Phoenix and she doesn't kill her parents. However, Nightcrawler's X-Men animated series voice is actually Jean's dad. Now,
and he's in Supernatural twice.
Oh, Wolverine and Cyclops were both Easter bunnies. We already talked about that. Now, there's also a cure, which of course causes chaos. Jean is alive. She kills Scott. Just so many decisions were made in this movie. The Phoenix is just her alter ego and another personality because Xavier set up walls in her head and caused her to suppress her feelings. So maybe Professor Xavier caused this whole thing. Now, toward the end, when they're fighting Magneto's minions, Wolverine asks Beast, "Aren't you a diplomat?" To which Beast starts to quote Winston Churchill as he's fighting and then says, "You get the point." Definitely a nod to the cartoon.
I never picked up on that because I only watched the cartoons for the first time this past year.
Oh, yeah.
So I absolutely loved that. I always thought that was a throwaway, ridiculous line. Who knows? That might have been the line that John rolled his eyes at me. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Like such a fun callback.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Magneto gets the cure when Beast stabs him with it, but we see him kind of move a chess piece at the end, suggesting that maybe it's not the cure. This had to be retconned for him to be full force back in Days of Future Past, unless, the cure just doesn't work. It's like a vasectomy. It's 99%, so there's always that 1%. I don't know.
That's terrifying.
But yeah, this is the you get the scene obviously where Logan's getting torn apart and he kills Jean and he's sad, boohoo. I truthfully haven't watched this in so long that I forgot Scott died
at the very beginning too. Well, and what's interesting too is Scott dies. Jean and Storm and Wolverine go to the site. And that's when they find Jean, but they also find Scott's glasses. And then Wolverine is apparently carrying the glasses around. And then when Jean wakes up, they start making out and going at it. And she's scratching him and he's healing right away.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then he's like, "Wait, this isn't you." And she's like, "You're trying to control me." And then he pulls out Cyclops' glasses. So you're making out with this dude's wife with his glasses in your pocket?
That's pretty rough, man. Could you hold on? Can you put the glasses on? I just need to see something. That's role playing.
Rewatching all of these, the two things I pulled from it was one, all of these movies are really good. They all have things that give nods to specific comics.
All
they
right.
really
I
do
wouldn't
a good
say
job.
Really good. Lauren's views and comments do not expressly.
In the past, I think I have felt less about these movies than I do now. And I think there's a few reasons. One, I think I have more comic book knowledge now than I did. So I can appreciate some of these callbacks. The cartoons, I can appreciate some of those callbacks. And it's expectations. So it's my expectations when I rewatched Phoenix were on the fucking ground. And so I was like, oh, this isn't terrible.
Oh,
right.
Baby girl.
So now.
Oh, no. Well, what happens in Days of Future Past?
Back. X-Men Days of Future Past came out in 2014. I really do like this movie. And what's fun is
good in any moment that Jennifer Lawrence isn't in the movie, it's good because Peter Dinklage is actually in this movie too.
And we get Quicksilver, who's fantastic in this
movie.
That
really great scene with Quicksilver that they could have used for Flash movies, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes, 100%. So this starts out, so they're starting out and Xavier just is doing his monologue at the beginning and he says the future. It's speculated to believe the future is around 2023. Logan has gray wings in his hair. It's before the movie Logan, but it's after the Wolverine because there's actually an end credits scene, which I'm probably jumping ahead, where Magneto and Xavier are like, "Hey, we need you." Now, keep in mind, though, the last time we saw Xavier at the end of X3, he was in the body of somebody else because Jean tore him to pieces. And Maura McTaggart was like, oh, "Charles, is that you?" in the body of somebody else.
That's
and
right.
Maura McTaggart was not the Maura McTaggart we know in the older ones, which are the newer ones. Okay. So this starts out and Xavier says the future, blah, blah, blah. So Sentinels have been designed to target and kill mutants. The Sentinels are really cool. They look like the Destroyer.
I actually really like the Sentinels. I thought they were pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way they could manipulate how they were. So they were designed to kill mutants, so they can adapt to kill any power. Humans have been murdered as well, and the world is basically done for. So the technology behind these advanced Sentinels is Mystique's DNA. The X-Men who are left keep going back in time to warn themselves about the Sentinels so they can leave before they get murdered again. Basically, Kitty Pryde is transferring the consciousness of one of them into their past selves like an hour before or something so they can get the hell out of there. So this is obviously no way to live. Enter Wolverine, Storm, Xavier, Magneto. Because of Wolverine's healing factor, they're able to send his consciousness all the way
Yep.
back to the 70s. It was supposed to be Xavier. Xavier wasn't going to be able to survive that. And I love it when he wakes up on a waterbed with bone claws.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I love it too because he's like, hey, look, buddy, I didn't sleep with her. He's like, well, I did, but it was a long time ago. So this is the first time we see Patrick Stewart's Xavier reference his past with Raven, because obviously we don't see that in the original trilogy. So they're acknowledging that X-Men First Class is canon to this. So now Logan wakes up with bone claws in 1973. His mission is to stop Mystique from killing Trask because that is when the government captured her and caught her DNA and felt they really needed to create weapons that can defeat mutants. This was also the first day Raven ever killed. Thereby, this is when she officially became Mystique. So I feel like they were doing a good job of trying to connect that past story of her and Charles' relationship
Right.
with this. And you even see in X3 when Magneto has to be controlled by Stryker to give up the location of the X Mansion and all the secrets behind it. Magneto never wanted any ill will towards Xavier. You see that in every iteration of them, old, young, animated, not
Cartoons,
animated, in the
comics, yeah,
comics.
everything. Yeah.
And he's like, I told him everything. And he's like, he couldn't help it. He didn't want to tell them everything. So I do like that they were trying to connect those. Logan gets young Xavier, Beast, and Quicksilver, who he mentions he actually knows in the future. I'd love to meet old man Quicksilver.
Same.
And Magneto. They do stop Raven, and the government doesn't get more than her blood, but Magneto goes on Magneto and raises a football stadium and tries to kill the president and everybody else at the White House that day.
As he does. He's
keeps
always,
leaving
you know,
time.
he's always so
Top of the
chill.
hat.
And then something not so chill happens and he decides to try to kill everybody.
But he's what I hated the most in the Phoenix movie. But again, rewatching
His
these,
stuff made
like,
no
wow.
sense because he was like, all of a sudden he's with Apocalypse and he's not with Apocalypse. And hey, you're my that's the least of that movie's problems, though.
So yeah, I have notes at the end to talk about Magneto and his indecisiveness.
Yeah.
So one of the things I noticed when I was watching this, while fighting Wolverine at the end, Magneto puts all, the metal things that like stick out of concrete.
Yes. Yeah. I don't remember their name off the top of my head, but I
don't know what the
100%
name is.
yes.
But Magneto puts them all through Wolverine, and that scene almost looks like the adamantium being pulled out of him. And then Magneto like throws him and he lands in water. And I almost wonder if that is a nod because he didn't have adamantium at the time. Because this was before,
right. Yeah.
Chronologically, this was before 1979, even though this Wolverine has gone through Weapon X. He's in the consciousness of his old body, so it's bone claws. So I thought that was really cool. So this is where it starts to get, what the fuck is happening? This is confusing. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So Wolverine's thrown into the bottom of the river, and later on he is fished out by what looks like William Stryker, but it's actually Mystique. So you think Wolverine should be fine, right? No. Now this changed the past, and therefore made all those past movies completely irrelevant, maybe, kind of, we don't know. So Deadpool may not have had to actually kill Wolverine, Origins Deadpool, although that could have still happened, as we learn in Apocalypse. Wolverine did not escape Weapon X, how we saw him do in X-Men 2 and in Origins. He didn't escape until Apocalypse. Okay, so at the end of Days of Future Past, Logan wakes up in the X-Mansion in 2023 and only has the OG timeline in his head. Xavier tells him they have some catching up to do. So it was like Xavier knew, so he knew that the timeline was going to change because I don't think Xavier knows the OG timeline. I think he just remembers meeting Logan because he makes a comment that, Logan said, promise me you'll go look for Storm and Jean and Cyclops and you'll look for those people. And he's like, I had a promise to keep. So I do hope, though, that Xavier was able to give Logan the new timeline as well as keep the old one. Because, could you imagine if you woke up and, the last, 50 years of your life was, not what you remembered? That'd be real awkward.
That'd be so wild.
But he
Yeah,
wakes up and Jean is there, Rogue is there, Bobby's there, everybody's alive and healthy. Beast is there, which Beast doesn't
it's the
make
end of
it to
Lord of
the
the
end.
Rings, where Frodo wakes up and it's all the hobbits coming to greet him.
Or like Wizard of Oz.
That too.
All right, so let's go back to X-Men Apocalypse in 2016, where it
If
is
your head
now the year
hurts, take some aspirin,
1983.
because mine does too. Now, yes, it's now 1983 on the new timeline. In X-Men Apocalypse, we're back here. Magneto gets married. He has a daughter with Snow White powers who can talk to animals. They end up dying, and Magneto is out for blood. Oh, the blood. Oh, the massacre. And joins Apocalypse before changing his mind, because I've never met somebody who's so
Changes his
wishy-washy.
mind in every fucking
This
movie.
dude changes his mind so much. It's
It's the ultimate
really,
flip flipper.
it's and
It's good to
fair
be
weather.
open-minded, but,
A little too
maybe do some
much.
research before you change your mind too much.
I didn't do any research. Now, you never actually see Blob's face, probably because they wanted to keep consistent with Wolverine origins. Caliban's in this as well. He's a dick, and he does have fake IDs and things like that.
Because we do see
They,
him in Logan, so we'll talk about that more in Logan, but in this, you get a younger Caliban,
you do,
but a
you do.
very different Caliban.
And they actually see Return of the Jedi. And as they're leaving, Phoenix says, "At least we can always agree the third one is always the worst."
Oh, a jab at
Ooh.
themselves. We appreciate that.
Well,
X3, I
this is the
assume is
only
what
time
they're
we get a
talking about.
Jubilee ever. By the way, like,
Jubilee is, like, in the background, I feel like more than once.
Jubilee like never gets to show her powers. She's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Uh, but the Quicksilver scene, getting everybody out of the mansion before it explodes, is really cool. Obviously, they do the more cool things with that, and we're not even going
Because
to
they had the cool
mention.
scene of him breaking Magneto out of jail was in Days of Future Past,
And they do
and
another really
then
cool one
this.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Xavier's in Cerebro, and Apocalypse makes contact and takes Xavier. But then the school explodes, which is why Quicksilver gets everybody out. William Stryker shows up, kidnaps a few people, takes them to where Weapon X is. This is where we get to see Weapon X Wolverine on screen, because Weapon X Wolverine escapes, goes full on Berserker Rage, breaks everybody out, runs into the snow. Goodbye, because Phoenix calms him down, brings him back by giving him back a few memories. He runs away.
And
And
this is,
and
like,
his
the one
he's
with the
got the
helmet.
helmet on. Yeah, so
Yeah. He
no,
went
it's not Hugh
full
Jackman.
Weapon
Yeah,
X
he's
in this, which
gone.
means he did not immediately escape like he did in Origins or that
Yep.
we saw in X2. That
He
means he
didn't
was
come out
there
the
for a
water like,
while.
ah.
Yeah, we didn't get that awesome nude
He had the
scene.
helmet on, and he looked like really Weapon X Wolverine. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the end of this, Jean releases her ultimate power of the Phoenix, defeats Apocalypse, thus ending the suffering of us all, and Oscar Isaac in particular. And the end credit scene is cleaning up the mess Weapon X made, and you see somebody put a vial of Wolverine's blood labeled Weapon X in a suitcase that says the Essex Corps. Now, Nathaniel Essex is actually Sinister, who did a lot of stuff to Logan in the comics, and obviously he was a pretty big villain in X-Men 97 if you watch that. And we mentioned last week that the mutant experiment place that Russell was at was Essex as well. And last but not least, we mentioned that Deadpool got his healing factor in the comics from Wolverine's DNA through the Weapon X program.
So you could argue that this is the new timeline Deadpool and that Francis or Ajax
Where's
had that
Francis?
vial of blood from the Weapon X program, and that's how he got Deadpool to. Well, they said they were having like recessive mutant genes that they had to bring out, but obviously Deadpool is a mutate from that blood, so
Yeah.
maybe there's a combination of the two. So you could argue that's the new timeline and it's still connected.
Look, man, I don't know. Okay, man, I don't know.
All right, so now we're going to X-Men Dark Phoenix, which came out in 2019, and it is
Ooh.
the year 1992. I do love all the clothes in the 80s and the 90s. Like,
It
kudos to
is.
them for
Yeah,
that.
that's about the only good things about these movies.
Especially Havoc was in the 1983 one.
Yeah,
He had
he
like a
was.
members only jacket. He was the only one that Quicksilver couldn't save in time.
Yeah.
I felt like they just needed to get rid of him because he's not there later, but I don't know. Nothing really matters. I
Dude,
don't know why
I
they got rid of him.
don't know. None of
Maybe
this
he had
matters.
scheduling conflict. I don't
None
know.
of this is he, because we don't see him in anything else, but whatever.
Right. So this was not as bad as I remembered on my rewatch. And I can't even go back. I'm done. Okay. So Jean was young and she made her mom fall asleep on accident while they were in the car, and that killed her because the mom fell asleep while driving, and then the mom died, and Jean and her dad ended up in the hospital, and then a wheelchaired Xavier with hair came to the hospital and took Jean at the request of her dad. If you're not following why I'm emphasizing on wheelchair or walking and hair, is because that is one of the most inconsistent things
They
is Xavier's
love to
hair
do
and ability
this.
to walk. I get he like took the stuff to suppress the mutant gene so that it would change his DNA so he could walk at times, but you have to at least have the hair because in the comics he had no hair because his mind was so strong his hair couldn't handle it. In the movies, Apocalypse burned
It's
his
also
hair.
my excuse for going bald. Just fun fact.
Apocalypse burned your hair off, or you're just super duper
No,
smart.
I'm just so smart that like my head
So
just
smart.
radiates smartness and my hair just is starting to fall out, obviously,
That's why I'm so gray. Same thing. It's a wisdom. Uh
Clearly.
clearly. But they never explained why Xavier was bald. Oh, you know what though? In Logan, he has hair. So I feel like in the Patrick Stewart version, he's just bald and shaved his head. What the hell? This is another
I
inconsistency. Okay.
anyways, let's not even let's again, there's so many things that are wrong with especially
Okay.
this one.
So Dazzler is actually in the beginning of this movie. She just is a little cameo. She's one of the kids for
I
the
never
school.
know that until now.
So they had gone to space to save the astronauts, and that's when Phoenix ends up like absorbing the Phoenix, which is like another alien kind of entity that these other aliens are trying to get. But they're drawn to Jean Grey when she's saving the astronauts. When after that happens, they're kind of doing like a little celebration just outside the X Mansion, and they got like a fire going and everything. And it's very clearly Dazzler because she's like singing and performing and doing things with her hands, and she's entertaining. So the problem in this though was Raven accidentally dies by Jean's hand. Like it's one of those like enough.
Jennifer Lawrence was
And
so tired of getting makeup on that they never put her in makeup and then they finally kill her off. Yeah. And so
well, I don't
such an
blame her.
unceremonious way as well.
I like this part though where she said something like, why are the girls always saving the boys? Maybe you should change this
Oh
to
yeah,
every
I remember that.
woman.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, well, and this was a completely different Mystique, obviously. Like, she never had that first kill. Like, she was an X-Men, so I was kind of okay with her story being over. So she dies by Jean's hand, and then Magneto and Hank, they both just see red. They don't process anything. They just go straight to anger. And honestly, for Hank, it kind of made sense because this is a new thing, and he truly was in love with
Yeah.
Raven. I think Magneto loved Raven, and I think they had something going on at one point, but I don't think he was in love with her. I think it was always very clear that he wasn't. And then they both suddenly have a change of heart when they realize it's the Phoenix and not Jean, which she got in space saving the astronauts. And it seems like she may have died at the end, but I don't think she died. She is alive in the 2023 scene in Days of Future Past, where Wolverine saves the day. It's not Sansa Stark, it's the other Jean. But they did leave it open to where like obviously Phoenix could come back, so that's
It's
not too
comic books,
unbelievable.
man. Nobody ever dies.
All right, so
Well,
what
speaking
happened
of
in the
nobody ever
Wolverine? I
dies,
love this movie.
The Wolverine 2013 takes place other than the World War II flashback in present day. For some reason, Logan is just chilling in the Canadian forest, living like an animal when Yukio finds him. Not the pink pie version from Deadpool, but a more comic accurate one. Logan goes to Japan then and sees Yoshida is dying. Logan thinks he just wants to say thank you and goodbye, but actually he wants his healing power. Logan then meets
And his
Yoshida's granddaughter,
adamantium.
Mariko. Yes, who is the actual love of his life. It ends with him leaving Japan and Yukio going with him. The end credit scene is Wolverine alone. There's a Trask commercial on TV at the airport. Magneto shows up. Logan pops his claws, which are bone, because he got a little messed up by Viper and Yoshida, but he's still adamantium inside. So Magneto can stop him. Magneto basically warns him that the Sentinels are coming. The Sentinels are coming. I am Paul Magneto Revere. The Sentinels are coming. And Xavier shows up to confirm this, as one does. And despite Xavier being in a different body at the end of X3, he's Patrick Stewart once again. Wolverine asks, how is this possible? And
Xavier's just
he
like, I
says,
got gifts, bro.
plot.
He's like, you
End
know me,
scene.
man.
Listen, don't ask about
Yeah.
semantics. All right. All right.
I want to say like maybe he's projecting an image because that's what he's comfortable in, but then that would completely throw off Logan because he's like senile.
Nobody
All right,
knows,
so the New
man.
Mutants came out in 2020. I did not rewatch this one. We actually did a whole
No.
episode on this early on in
God, it
this
was so bad.
So I'm hoping they ignore this. Who knows if they will, because they brought Black Bolt from Inhumans into the Doctor Strange movie. So who the hell knows?
We
But this
don't
does
know.
take place before Logan. Now, in the
It does.
time sequence after the Wolverine, we now go back to the Days of Future Past here in 2023. So the beginning and the end of Days of Future Past is where we are now. Logan, however, has adamantium claws in both 2023 scenes. So they never explain how he gets those back after the Wolverine. He was even confused when he popped bone claws in the 70s. That sounded wrong. And he had the adamantium
I
when
hate when
he
I pop a
scratches.
bone clone.
Yeah, it was. So he scratches Kitty. I didn't mean to say that. He scratches Kitty Pryde at one point, though, in the future with the adamantium claws because he was under stress and he popped the claws and she got injured. They never, and obviously in Logan he has them. It's one of the first scenes you see with the claws right through the guy's like under his chin. So Logan is 2017 and it is 2029. This is supposedly occurring after Deadpool and Wolverine. Do
Oh,
you want to tell us why this is the best movie ever?
movie of the X-Men films. Yes, it's 6 years after everything is all nice and grand and peachy. The world goes to shit, which, honestly, the longer we live on this earth, the more I see it happening. But that's neither here nor here.
And it's not
Uh,
Wastelands
it's no,
terrible.
no, 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 no,
Like
no.
there's still bachelorette parties going on the strip and stuff.
Yeah. Now, Xavier experienced a psychic seizure, which killed his X-Men, and
I
new
wrote
mutants
physics.
weren't being born because mutant suppressants were being put into corn syrup. Now, in Old Man Logan, comic book Mysterio actually tricked Wolverine into thinking the X-Men were the bad guys. He kills them all. It wasn't just X-Men. Hulk survives, but the Gamma over time makes him evil. Wolverine then later wakes up in another reality where his doppelganger is dead. And Wolverine mentions that the Statue
What
of Liberty
happened?
was a long time ago. It does. So, first movie is canon. Maybe. We don't really know.
Yes.
And
Because when I was rewatching that, I was like, wait. He's like, Statue of Liberty was a long time ago. Like Wolverine says that to
we don't
Professor
know,
X.
man. It was the 2000s,
So,
man.
but I mean, Magneto did still break bad. No, he
Yeah.
didn't. We don't know. Yes,
No.
he did. Maybe.
Maybe. And wow,
I
we
don't
said
know.
maybe at the same time. Look at us. In Loki, new mutants are no longer being made natural. Now, old Loki was the evil doctor, Dr. Xander Rice, who created the formula that suppresses the mutant
Just to
gene.
clarify, the actor who played Old Loki is the evil doctor. Not Old
Yes.
Loki is not in
I'm
this. I
sorry.
just wanted
Yes.
to. No.
He,
You're good. I
yeah.
didn't clarify that in there.
I knew what was happening. Now, Xavier accidentally killed and injured a bunch of people with his seizure and is now on medication for it. He also suffers from dementia, but has very lucid moments and connected with Laura, aka X-23, aka Daphne Keene. It is mentioned that Caliban used to work rounding up mutants, so wasn't always a nice guy. This may actually then be consistent with his character in Apocalypse, because we saw the young Caliban.
Few
And
consistencies.
Dr. Xander and company are after kids they experimented on, which includes Laura, who got away. Logan dies defending the kids in a very sad, ceremonious way, stuck on the tree branches. They make their way to Canada. Who knows if they live happily ever after? And, it's a really good movie. It's really sad when Logan actually is killing Professor Xavier, stabbing him, and it's really fucking sad. He carries him out to
Well,
the
it's not
car.
him stabbing him. It's a
Right. You know what I mean? Like, and
yeah.
then
But
like,
it was creepy seeing that too because it was like a
yeah.
younger
Well,
Hugh
this is like one of the
Jackman.
early days of de-aging where we have the younger version of Hugh Jackman.
But they took
Yeah.
away They took away what makes Wolverine, which is his morals and his
Yeah.
consciousness and or his conscious.
It
And
was Terminator Wolverine.
yeah. So they were creating with Wolverine's DNA something that had no remorse, had no feelings. He was just a killing machine. And that's what killed Xavier. And it was such a sweet, sad moment because Xavier woke up and he's like, I don't deserve anything good because he like has lucid moments where he remembers that his psychic seizure killed a bunch of people in Westchester, New York, which is where the X-Men mansion is, which means he killed some of the X-Men. And we think it's Logan listening to him after, helping that guy with his crops or whatever. And
Right.
it's really this evil version of Wolverine that's just there to murder all of them.
It's crazy. So
You hate
obvious.
to see that
Yeah.
happen.
It's a good movie by all means. It's very sad, very good. And they're even going to reference it in, Deadpool Wolverine. Now in Deadpool 2.
I don't know that they are.
Yeah, they do. Never mind. You'll see.
But they say that Wolverine killed everybody.
I thought he
in
was.
that movie.
I thought there
For
was.
one, this movie
They
takes
mentioned
place
like getting
in the
killed. I don't
future.
know, man.
So they
Whatever.
mentioned that Wolverine is responsible, which
None
is
of
what
this
happened
matters
in
anymore, anyways.
Logan.
This is all the old shit. So,
But it does matter.
Deadpool says first he rides my coattails with the R rating, then he ups the ante by dying. Well, guess
No.
what, Wolvie? I'm
First
dying in
line of
this.
Deadpool 2 is fuck Wolverine. First he rides my coattails with the R rating, and then he ups the ante by dying. Well, guess what, Wolvie? I'm dying in this. I don't know if that's an exact quote. That's just what I remember.
Well, then Deadpool time travels, kills original Deadpool. Thank bless. I don't have any other notes. I'm glad this is done. I'm glad we're now in the MCU. I'm glad the X-Men are coming to the MCU because fucking God, this was
I have a lot of notes, apparently.
tough. So give us your notes real quick as we wrap things up.
Okay, so I think I already mentioned a lot of the inconsistencies. I think I might make some TikToks out of this too if I can before we go to. I probably don't have time, but I'm going to try. How did Wolverine get his claws back? That is my biggest freaking question. Magneto's powers are full force. How did that happen? Xavier's hair and walking are inconsistent. Stryker's casting never made sense. He ages like 20
At
years in 5
all.
years, and then he shrinks 2 feet. I do want to make a TikTok about that. The most consistent thing I said before about all these movies was how quick Magneto changes his mind. At almost every single movie, he does that. First Class, he turns on Charles, which is his best friend, almost immediately. Days of Future Past, he suddenly tries to kill Raven.
That's what I'm
Which
saying.
him
Like
and
he just starts killing everybody for no reason. It's like, does friendship mean nothing? He needs to spend some time with Vin Diesel.
I mean, he always refers to Xavier as old friend, always. But
And then he
he's just
kills
so
all of
quick
his
because
old
he thinks everything he's doing, he's always trying to do the best for all mutants. He's one of those, like, you got to, break the egg to make an omelet kind of person or kind of saying. But in Days of Future Past, he tries to kill Raven out of nowhere, even though they had been like very intimate before, because if he kills her, they can't get her DNA. Ironically, they get her blood because he shoots her. In X-Men 3, as soon as he loses his powers, he turns around and he's like, what have I done? In Apocalypse, yeah, you said it earlier. He's with Apocalypse and then he's not. Phoenix, he turns on Phoenix so fast about Raven and then joins her to fight the aliens. One more thing, it's very interesting how many actors have been cast in the Fox universe and MCU. We have Peter Dinklage is the dwarf in Endgame, and he is Trask in this. Then we have Kevin Bacon is Kevin Bacon in the MCU, and in the Fox universe, he's Sebastian Shaw. And there's a ton of them, and it's not just like where Mantis plays more than one person, or Star-Lord's mom, where they look so different, like they look like themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping with this new MCU we get more Wolverine in Japan. The Yoshida parts should all still be canon in the new timeline since their meeting was not touched.
Just scrap all of this because none of this matters.
Technically took place before the time traveling thing, but there's no reason to believe.
I kind of got a feeling that they're going to go back to, if we're going to get a true MCU Wolverine, I feel like they're going to give us his Japanese roots. They're so good about homaging to the comic book origins and sticking to that stuff in some regard that, yeah, everything that happened up until now doesn't matter. We're now moving on. And if we do get this new Wolverine, no matter who he is, I think they're going to go to his Japanese roots in some regard, without a doubt. That's my bold prediction.
I have a hard time with that.
Rest in peace, Jackie. I still love you, girl. She's great.
Right.
But yeah, this is the mess. It is, but at least now none of it matters.
I tried my best, and I think I confused myself more.
I was confused. The listeners probably turned it off 5 minutes in.
Dude,
we're all confused. But you know what? We can be confused together, and guess what? Throw this out because none of this matters. Deadpool
and if there's anything in the inconsistencies we found that you think that are like, no, this is what it is, let us know.
Do it. Because we do have a what we messed up on segment when we get back from
that we haven't used in a while, Tim.
We haven't used, so please let us know, man. Damn, dude. Damn, man. Our 3 listeners, let us know. But seriously, thanks for hanging out, everybody. This has been your very confusing Fox recap. As always, find us on social media.
Ready for Deadpool and Wolverine. This is the last episode we're dropping before Deadpool.
Exactly.
And Wolverine.
This is the last time we're going through the portal together. We will see you on the other side. Deadpool and Wolverine is finally here. Finally here.
Portal together. We'll see you on the other side.
We're going together. We get to watch the fucking movie together.
Go.
I'm so
I've dropped a lot of F-bombs in this episode. I'm sorry.
It's hard not to. Just trying to figure out this timeline. But we'll see you guys next time. Catch our out of theater reaction from Deadpool Wolverine. And cheers.